Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sthapakaya cha dharmasya Sarvadharma Swarupine Sthapakaya cha dharmasya Sarvadharma Swarupine Avatara Varishtaya Ramakrishna Te Namaha Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Mritangamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us offer our salutations to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the Supreme God incarnate. Let us pray to Him to lead us from the unreal to the real, to lead us from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. We have been studying Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Today's topic I have chosen, orientation of life towards realization of our real divine nature. It's very important how we orient ourselves towards the reality. The purpose of all religion is this: how we can focus all our resources towards realizing the truth. According to Vedanta, the message of the Upanishads, nothing exists other than Brahman, the ultimate reality. It is ever existent. What we see around is only an as if reality. But this as if or dream-like reality continues to be real to us, most of the time painfully, until the dream breaks. So until we realize the truth, though we are wakeful, really we are not, in the Vedantic term. Only when we are enlightened with the knowledge, with the experience of the reality, then only we are really awake. As long as our individualities are real to us, a personal God and universe are inevitable realities. In other words, personal God can be negated only if we can negate our own body, mind, personality, or free ourselves from body consciousness. According to Swami Vivekananda, in his complete works, he has said, Your Godhead is the proof of God Himself. If you are not God, there never was any God and never will be. In other words, the divinity behind the universe becomes real to us only when we become aware of the divinity behind our own body and mind. Even a strong intellectual conviction of the divinity behind the body and mind, and ordering our life accordingly, can help us appreciate the divinity behind the universe. So, considering the centrality of the individual, we examine the relationship between the individual and the world, the individual and God, and between individuals. We are all searching for lasting happiness. The searching goes on until we realize the truth. The world is really too much with us. Most lives are fashioned by unseen forces, pulling the mind and senses towards the world and its lures. The average person seeks lasting happiness and fulfillment from the world. It is not surprising when we know how human personality is constituted according to the famous Kathopanishad. Our sense organs have been created in such a way they have outgoing tendencies. Therefore, a person perceives only the outer objects with them, not the inner self. But the search for lasting happiness and fulfillment in external things inevitably proves futile, because real happiness is possible only in the infinite. There is no lasting happiness in finite things. The centrifugal path. What is the way out then? Give up the world? Vedanta doesn't advocate renunciation of everything for everyone. It shows a twofold way of life. One is pravritti dharma and the other nivritti dharma. Pravritti dharma is characterized by the pursuit of the three important values of life. Then only it becomes spiritually oriented. One is dharma, righteousness. Then artha, prosperity, and kama, desire. Such a life involves responsibilities and dharma regulated enjoyments in the world. The outward focus makes pravritti dharma a centrifugal path, making man move away from the central divine core of our personality. Lord Krishna considers desires perfectly legitimate as long as they are in accordance with dharma. Life in the world is not one of unbridled enjoyment, but a graded schooling to wean man away from the sensory system and turn him within. That's the purpose. According to Hindu tradition, life is divided into 4 stages. called ashramas, brahmacharya ashrama, life of self-control and studies. Garhastya, grihastha householder's life of responsibilities and pleasures in resonance with dharma. Then comes vanaprastha, retirement into forest, leading a life of studies and meditation. And finally, sannyas, total renunciation of one's family and embarking on the quest for knowledge. There is a significant point to be noted here. The self-control practiced in the first stage served as a sheet anchor for the remaining stages of life. The householder has many sets of do's and don'ts regarding sensory life. The self-control he learned during his student life helps him there. He practices his morning and evening devotions and serves others to the best of his ability. In the modern age, however, only the second and fourth stages of life are in vogue. The all-important first stage of self-control having almost vanished. Now about the centripetal path. Even a man given to unregulated sense enjoyment gradually learns that enjoyment is not all, that desires cannot be quenched by satisfying them. They only flame up all the more like fire fed with ghee. He begins to understand that what gave him happiness once is only a source of misery now. He learns painfully that he did not enjoy sense objects, but it was they who enjoyed him, robbing him of his consciousness of his real nature. When things go awry, when the world doesn't function according to his pet plans, when his possessions and kith and kin slip away from him by turn of events, man begins to think about the purpose of human life. Convinced that the world is not only impermanent but also an abode of misery, he begins his search for something lasting amid the fleeting panorama of life. This was said by Swami Vivekananda in his complete works. His reflection on the ultimate reality, discrimination between the real and the unreal, and consequent giving up of attachment to ephemeral things, and practicing spiritual disciplines, these mark the beginning of the centripetal path, that is nivritti dharma, which leads one to the realization of the indwelling God. Attitude towards others. As long as body and mind hold sway over us, the world continues to be real and others appear as distinct individuals. Likes and dislikes of others is an inevitable sequel to this perception. Man's interaction with others is mostly driven by selfish considerations. His relationship with others, being body-centered, defects in others appear more real to him. Such a self-centered life unfailingly ends up in frustration. Is there a way out? There is none as long as our vision doesn't extend beyond the external world. That brings us to the subject of God and our relationship with Him. about individual and God. God doesn't dwell somewhere up there, but within our own hearts here. Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Hriddeshe Arjuna Tishtati, Ishvara Sarvabhutanam, Hriddeshe Arjuna Tishtati. According to three schools of Vedanta, there are three relationships between God and the individual. The dualistic school looks upon man as a soul and God as the supreme person, eternally different from man. According to the qualified monistic school, God is the supreme person and the repository of all auspicious qualities. Individual souls are parts of God, even as sparks of fire are parts of fire. God is the soul of souls. That's about Vishishtadvaita. Now, according to the non-dualistic school, Advaita, the individual and God are identical in their divine essence. Nothing exists other than Brahman. Everything else is illusory, like a mirage on the desert, vanishing on the dawn of knowledge. For a spiritual aspirant, these distinctions help him only to the extent that they offer him a frame of reference. Of the three relationships, the one according to the qualified non-dualistic school is most helpful for a spiritual aspirant. That is, a spark of divinity, part of the divine fire. When someone asked about the relative merits of the conceptions of God according to the three schools of Vedanta, Sri Ramana Maharshi, a great 20th century sage of Arunachal, who lived and taught the path of self-inquiry, he replied, "First know yourself. Then there will be time enough to know God and your relationship with Him." Sri Ramakrishna teaches that God is our own, like Uncle Moon, to whom everyone can pray. God is like our own father and mother, and we can force our demands on Him. God is our very own. We should say to Him, "O God, what is Thy nature? Reveal Thyself to me. Thou must show Thyself to me, for why else hast Thou created me?" Some Sikh devotees once said to me, Sri Ramakrishna said, "God is full of compassion." I said, Sri Ramakrishna continued, "But why should we call Him compassionate? He is our creator. What is there to be wondered at if He is kind to us? Parents bring up their children. Do you call that an act of kindness? They must act that way. Therefore, we should force our demands on God. He is our father and mother, isn't He?" So nicely Sri Ramakrishna explains. Sri Ramakrishna advocates cultivation of another important quality, a strong faith in oneself, based on the fact that one is a child of God, and a strong resolve not to follow the old, unwholesome ways of life. Swami Vivekananda considers faith in one's higher nature a prerequisite to a meaningful faith in God. Why does God seem so unreal? All this discussion is all right, but why do they hardly make a dent on us? Why does any talk on the subject appear so dry, or if inspiring, the effect so momentary? If it is inspiring, it is momentary. In short, why is God just a three-letter word to most people. Some devotees used to visit Sri Ramakrishna, accompanied by some of their friends who were worldly and had no taste for spiritual talk. Since the devotees kept on talking for a long time with the master about God, the others would become restless. Finding it impossible to sit there any longer, they would whisper to their devotee friends, "Well, when shall we be going? How long will you stay here?" The devotees would say, "Wait a bit, we shall go after a while." Then the worldly people would say in a disgusted tone, "Well then, you can talk, we shall wait for you in the boat." Sri Ramakrishna makes it clear that one doesn't feel the longing to know or see God as long as one wants to enjoy worldly objects. And none can teach anyone this hunger for God. It has to come by itself, says Sri Ramakrishna. But you must remember that nothing can be achieved except in its proper time. Some persons must pass through many experiences and perform many worldly duties before they can turn their attention to God. So they have to wait a long time. Once a child said to its mother, "Oh mother, I am going to sleep just now. Please wake me up when I feel the call of nature." "My child," said the mother, "when it is time for that, you will wake up yourself. I shall not have to wake you." It's just like that. We do not feel the need for God as long as we are happy with the world. The child doesn't seek its mother as long as it is happy with its toys. Swami Vivekananda says, we want everything but God, because our ordinary desires are fulfilled by the external world. So long as our needs are confined within the limits of the physical universe, we don't feel any need for God. It's only when we have had hard blows in our lives and are disappointed with everything here that we feel the need for something higher. Then we seek God. Attitude towards God. Man's attitude towards God depends on his attitude towards himself and towards the world. According to the Bhagavad Gita, 4 kinds of people worship God. Chaturvida bhajante mam. There's a verse. The afflicted who pray for a cure, those after worldly prosperity, wealth, power, position, name, fame, and so on. Thirdly, jignasus, seekers of spiritual knowledge. And fourthly, the jnani, the man of spiritual knowledge. While Lord Krishna considers all of them noble, he reserves the pride of place to the jnani and considers him his very self. A spiritual aspirant needs to be clear that the first 2 kinds of worshippers are still worldly. That means those who are praying for the sake of curing some disease, or those who are praying for worldly prosperity, power, position, wealth, etc. A spiritual aspirant needs to be clear that the first 2 kinds of worshippers are still worldly, using God for their worldly ends. Only their worldliness has a spiritual veneer. He needs to consciously belong to the third group. To such a seeker of knowledge, every problem, every experience is grist to his mill. He understands the evanescence of the world and uses his experiences to turn to God all the more. He doesn't give up his devotion because his prayers remain unanswered, or if some calamity befalls him. He is persistent like the hereditary farmer in Sri Ramakrishna's parable. who does not give up farming because it does not get any crop in a year of drought. He continues with his spiritual sadhana, irrespective of returns from God. He doesn't go back to worldly enjoyments because he has not gained in spiritual life. The need to begin now. Once an aspirant is clear about the goal of life, knowing his real divine nature or knowing God, he doesn't wait for his desires to subside so that he could think of God with a clean mind. He knows that waiting for all worldly cares to subside before calling on God is as foolish as waiting for the waves to subside before plunging into the sea for taking a bath. Sri Ramakrishna advocates holding fast to God with one hand and doing one's duties with the other. When the spiritual aspirant gets a respite from his duties, he can cling to God with both hands. Sri Ramakrishna has said in the Gospel. Change of attitude towards the world. A spiritual aspirant learns to look upon the world not as a place of enjoyment and misery, but as a grand moral gymnasium wherein we have all to take exercise so as to become stronger and stronger spiritually. Sri Ramakrishna teaches us to live in the world like a maidservant in a rich man's house. Though she looks after her employer's children as her own, she knows deep within that her home is elsewhere and that the children do not belong to her at all. Even so, one needs to work upon one's wife, husband and children as God's children under one's care and serve them accordingly. Such a spiritual aspirant doesn't look for defects in others, but learns to look upon others as children of God and serves them in a spirit of worship of the God that dwells in them. Both Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda teach that God's manifestation is the most potent in a human being, and serving him in this spirit is a potent spiritual discipline. Says Swami Vivekananda, think day and night, this universe is zero, only God is. Have intense desire to get free. Swami Ramakrishna Anandaji, the embodiment of devotion to Sri Ramakrishna, sums up religion in these few words. Religion is, very nice he has said, religion is giving God his due. God alone is the proprietor of this universe. God alone is the proprietor of myself. Recognizing this and then giving up all to him, that is religion. Beautiful. In some, life becomes meaningful only if it is oriented towards its all-important goal, realization of our real divine nature. A proper attitude towards ourselves, God and the universe, including other beings, is fundamental to a meaningful search for truth. So, it's very important that we should know some of the basic principles to live a life of spirituality. Definitely, we should orient our life towards the realization of our real divine nature. When Swamiji said, each soul is potentially divine. So, the main goal, the main purpose for which we are born here is to unfold the potentiality of the divine. In the words of Swami Ramana Maharshi, to know what you are. to know what you are. I am not this body, I am not this mind, I am not this intellect, I am none of these. I am pure existence, knowledge, bliss, absolute. Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham. That's our true nature. I am that Shiva, that pure essence. Once we realize that reality, our life is really blessed and we enjoy the supreme, everlasting peace and bliss. Page 864. Ishan said, "What shall I say, sir? I don't like to argue anymore." Master said sharply, "Why? Won't you say the right thing?" Ishan said to the doctor, "Our faith is shallow on account of our pride. It is said in the Ramayana that a crow named Bhushandi did not at first accept Rama as an incarnation of God. Once it incurred Rama's displeasure, it travelled through the different worlds, the lunar, solar and so forth, and through Mount Kailas to escape Rama's wrath. But it found that it could not escape. Then it surrendered itself to him and took refuge at his feet. Rama took the crow in his hand and swallowed it. Thereupon the crow found that it was seated in its own nest in a tree. After its pride had thus been crushed, the bird came to realize that though Rama looked like any other man, yet he contained in his stomach the entire universe, sky, moon, sun, stars, oceans, rivers, men, animals and trees. Master said to the doctor, "It is very difficult to understand that God can be a finite human being and at the same time the all-pervading soul of the universe. The absolute and the relative are his two aspects. How can we say emphatically with our small intelligence that God cannot assume a human form? Can we ever understand all these ideas with our little intellect? Can a one-share pot hold 4 shares of milk? Therefore, one should trust in the words of holy men and great souls. Those who have realized God, they constantly think of God as a lawyer of his lawsuits. Do you believe the story of the cow Bhushandi?" Doctor said, "I accept as much as I want to. All difficulties come to an end if only God reveals his true nature to the seeker. Then there can be no confusion. How can I accept Rama as an incarnation of God? Take the example of his killing Wali, the monkey chieftain. He hid himself behind a tree like a thief and murdered Wali. That's how a man acts and not God." Girish said, "But sir, such an action is possible only for God." Doctor, then take the example of his sending Sita into exile. Girish said, "This too, sir, is possible only for God, not for man." Ishan said to the doctor, "Why don't you believe in the incarnation of God? Just now you said that God has form since he has created all these forms, and that God is formless since he has created the mind, which is without form. A moment ago you said that everything is possible for God." Master said laughingly, "It is not mentioned in his science that God can take human form. So how can he believe it?" I laugh. Listen to a story. A man said to his friend, "I have just seen a house fall down with a terrific crash." Now the friend to whom he told this had received an English education. He said, "Just a minute. Let me look it up in the newspaper." He read the newspaper, but could not find the news of a house falling down with a crash. Thereupon he said to his friend, "Well, I don't believe you. It is not in the paper, so it is all false. All laugh. Girish said to the doctor, you must admit that Krishna is God. I will not let you look on him as a mere man. You must admit that he is either God or a demon. Master said, unless a man is guileless, he can't so easily have faith in God. God is far, far away from the mind steeped in worldliness. Worldly intelligence creates many doubts and many forms of pride, pride of learning, wealth and the rest. Pointing to the doctor, Sri Ramakrishna said, but he is guileless. How guileless Keshav Sen was. One day he visited the Kali temple at Dakshineshwar. At about 4 in the afternoon he went around to the guest house where the poor are fed and asked when the beggars would be fed. He didn't know that it was too late in the day for the feeding of the poor. As a man's faith increases, so does his knowledge of God. The cow that discriminates too much about food gives milk in driblets, but the cow that gulps down everything, herbs, leaves, grass, husks and straw, gives milk in torrents. God cannot be realized without childlike faith. The mother says to her child, pointing to a boy, he is your elder brother, and the child at once believes that the boy is 100% his brother. Again the mother says that a bogey man lives in a certain room, and the child believes 100% that the bogey man lives in the room. God bestows his grace on the devotee who has this faith of a child. God cannot be realized by the mind steeped in worldliness. Doctor said to the devotees, it is not right, however, to make the cow yield milk by feeding her all sorts of things. One of my cows was fed that way. I drank its milk, and the result was that I became seriously ill. At first, I was at a loss to know the cause. After much inquiry, I found out that the cow had been given the wrong things to eat. I was in a great fix. I had to go to Lucknow for a change to get rid of the illness. I spent 12,000 rupees. Roars of laughter. It is very difficult always to find out the precise relationship between cause and effect. A child of 7 months in a wealthy family had an attack of whooping cough. I was called in for consultation. Even after much effort, I could not find out the cause of the illness. At last I learnt that the child had been given the milk of an ass that had been drenched in the rain. All laugh. Master said to the devotees, how strange. It is like saying that a man has an acid stomach because he passed in his coach under a tamarind tree. All laugh. Doctor said with a smile, let me tell you another. The captain of a ship had a bad headache. After consultation, the doctors on board had a blister applied to the side of the boat. I'll laugh. Master said to the doctor, for the seekers of God, the constant company of holy men is necessary. The disease of worldly people has become chronic, as it were. They should carry out the instructions of holy men. What will they gain by merely listening to their advice? They must not only take the prescribed medicine, but also follow a strict diet. Diet is important. The doctor said, yes, it is diet more than anything else that causes the cure. Master said, there are 3 classes of physicians, superior, mediocre and inferior. The inferior physician feels the patient's pulse, merely asks him to take medicine and then goes away. He doesn't bother to find out whether the patient has followed his instruction or his direction. The mediocre physician gently tries to persuade the patient to take the medicine. He says, look here, how can you get well without medicine? Take the medicine, my dear. I am preparing it with my own hands. But the superior physician follows a different method. If he finds the patient stubbornly refusing to swallow the medicine. He presses the patient's chest with his knee and forces the medicine down his throat. Doctor said, there is a form of treatment that doesn't require the physician to press the patient's chest with his knee. For instance, homeopathy. Master said, there is no fear if a good physician presses the patient's chest with his knee. Like the physicians, there are three classes of religious teachers. The inferior teacher is content with merely giving spiritual instruction. He doesn't bother about the student after that. The mediocre teacher explains the teaching again and again for the good of the student, that he may assimilate it. He persuades the student through love and kindness to follow it. But the superior teacher uses force, if necessary, on the stubborn student. To the doctor, the renunciation of lust and gold is meant for the sannyasi. He must not look even at the picture of a woman. Do you know what a woman is to a man? She is like spiced pickle. The very thought of pickle brings water to the tongue. It doesn't have to be brought near the tongue. But this renunciation is not meant for householders like you. It is meant only for sannyasis. You may live among women as far as possible in a spirit of detachment. Now and then you must retire into solitude and think of God. Women must not be followed there. You can lead an unattached life to a great extent if you have faith in God and love for Him. After the birth of one or two children, a married couple should live as brother and sister. They should then constantly pray to God that their minds may not run after sense pleasures anymore, and that they may not have any more children. Girish to the doctor with a smile. You have already spent 3 or 4 hours here. What about your patient? What about your patients? Doctor said, well, my practice and patience, I shall lose everything on account of your Paramahamsa. Master said, there is a river called the Karmanasha, literally the destroyer of duties. It is very dangerous to dive into that river. If a man plunges into its waters, he cannot perform any more action. It puts an end to his duties. All laughed. Doctor said to Girish M. and the other devotees, my friends, consider me as one of you. I am not saying this as a physician, but if you think of me as your own, then I am yours. Master said to the doctor, there is such a thing as love for love's sake. It is very good if one can grow such love. Prahlad loved God for the sake of love. A devotee like Prahlad says, O God, I do not want wealth, fame, creature comforts, or any such things. Please grant me the boon that I may have genuine love for thy lotus feet. Doctor said, you are right, sir. I have seen people bowing down before the image of Kali. They seek worldly objects from the goddess, such as a job, the healing of disease, and so forth. He said to the master, the illness you are suffering from does not permit the patient to talk with people, but my case is an exception. You may talk with me when I am here. Master said, please cure my illness. I can't chant the name and glories of God. Doctor said, meditation is enough. Master, what do you mean? Why should I lead a monotonous life? I enjoy my fish in a variety of dishes, curried fish, fried fish, pickled fish, and so forth. Sometimes I worship God with rituals, sometimes I repeat His name, sometimes I meditate on Him, sometimes I sing His name and glories, sometimes I dance in His name. Doctor said, neither am I monotonous. Master, your son Amrita does not believe in the incarnation of God. What's the harm in that? One realizes God even if one believes Him to be formless. One also realizes God if one believes that God has form. Two things are necessary for the realization of God: faith and self-surrender. Man is ignorant by nature. Errors are natural to him. Can a one-share pot hold 4 shares of milk? Whatever path you may follow, you must pray to God with a restless heart. He is the ruler of the soul within. He will surely listen to your prayer if it is sincere. Whether you follow the ideal of personal God or that of the impersonal truth, you will realize God alone, provided you are restless for Him. A cake with icing tastes sweet whether you eat it straight or sidewise. Your son Amrita is a nice boy. Doctor said, he is your disciple. Master with a smile. There is not a fellow under the sun who is my disciple. On the contrary, I am everybody's disciple. All are the children of God. All are His servants. I too am a child of God. I too am His servant. Uncle Moon is every child's uncle. So this completes this chapter. Next Tuesday I will start chapter 46, the Master and Dr. Sarkar. Very good. Any questions if you want to ask? So what is very important is, that's all. One should be guileless. One should make firm resolve. And then everything comes all right. Any question? No question. All right. Chant the name of the Lord and His glory unceasingly, that the mirror of the heart may be wiped clean, and quench that mighty forest fire worldly lust, raging furiously within. O name, stream down in moonlight on the lotus heart, opening its cup to knowledge of thyself. O self, drown deep in the waves of His bliss, tasting His nectar at every step, bathing in His name that bought for weary souls. Various are thy names, O Lord, in each and every name thy power resides. No times are set, no rites are needful for chanting of thy name. So vast is thy mercy, how huge then is my wretchedness, who find in this empty life and heart no devotion to thy name. O my mind, be humbler than a blade of grass, be patient and forbearing like a tree, take no honor to thyself, give honor to all, chant unceasingly the name of the Lord. O Lord and soul of the universe, mine is no prayer for wealth or retinue, the playthings of lust or the ties of fame. As many times as I may be reborn, grant me, O Lord, a steadfast love for thee. A drowning man in this world's fearful ocean is thy servant, O sweet one. In thy mercy consider him as dust beneath thy feet. Oh, how I long for the day when an instant separation from thee, O Lord, will be as 1,000 years, when my heart burns away with its desire, and the world without thee is a heartless void. Prostrate at thy feet let me be, in unwavering devotion, neither imploring the embrace of thine arms, nor bewailing the withdrawal of thy presence, though with tears my soul asunder. O thou who stillest the hearts of thy devotees, do with me what thou wilt, for thou art my heart's beloved, thou and thou alone. O Lord, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness to light, and lead us from death to immortality. May all be free from dangers, may all realize what is good, may all be actuated by noble thoughts, may all rejoice everywhere, may all be happy, may all be free from disease, may all realize what is good, may none be subject to misery. May the wicked become virtuous, may the virtuous reign tranquility, may the tranquil be free from bonds, may the freed make others free. May good betide all people, may the sovereign righteously rule the earth, may all beings ever attain what is good, may the worlds be prosperous and happy. May the clouds pour rain in time, may the earth be blessed with crops, may all countries be freed from calamity, may holy men live without fear. May the Lord, the destroyer of sins, the presiding deity of all sacred works, be satisfied. For he being pleased, the whole universe becomes pleased. He being satisfied, the whole universe feels satisfied.